Hello, my name is Matthew Deutsch, and I'm a professional business plan writer. This is part of a new video series that I'm creating, just discussing varying aspects of writing a business plan, starting a business, and discussing varying topics related to entrepreneurship. Today I'm going to be talking about doing the market research portion of the business plan. Of all the sections of the business plan, this one is usually one of the more time-intensive pieces. When I write a business plan for a client, I usually segment it into 4 different sections. The first being the economic analysis, the second being the industry analysis, the third part being the customer profile, and that ends with the competitive analysis. And through this video, I'm just going to go through each of those step by step. The first part being the economic analysis. This is pretty straightforward. Here you would just discuss the current state of the economy, things such as, if interest rates are going up, or if there are issues with inflation, if there's substantial unemployment. And from there, just to have a discussion regarding how those potential matters will impact your business. For instance, if I was doing a business plan for a restaurant, if there was very high inflation or if there was substantial unemployment, I would mention that this could have an impact on revenues, but also addressing how this is going to be how that will be addressed in the event of a negative economic climate change. One of the things I always do, especially when addressing these issues, if I bring up a specific issue or I bring up a specific risk, how is that going to be dealt with during the course of normal business operations? In regards to sourcing this information, you can easily go online, look up what the current inflation rate is, current interest rate, current unemployment, GDP growth. All of that information is readily available. The next section is the industry analysis. And I mentioned this in a different video, one of the ongoing issues that I see, especially when people have started their business plan on their own, is that they either go very light on the industry research or they make it into like a full-scale book report, which it doesn't need to be. Generally speaking, industry research specific within the confines of a business plan for raising capital, or if you're a self-finance business, typically should run 1 to 3 pages at most. There are very limited instances where there needs to be a far greater degree of industry research. Typically, if I'm working with, say, an energy-related client, that may go on, for anywhere from 6 to 10 pages, only because it's absolutely necessary if there are, so many, nuts and bolts of an industry that need to be addressed. But generally speaking, let's say you're opening up a restaurant, typically 1 to 2 pages is more than sufficient. And if it's for self-financed, you can just, make it, somewhat smaller, since it's not, a major component of your presentation to anyone. In regards to sourcing industry research, this is somewhat complicated. One of the issues I've seen occur, especially over the past 2 to 3 years, is that there's been a substantial amount of AI-generated content specific for industry statistics. For instance, looking at the number of restaurants, what are the total revenues, how many people work within the industry. I've done, and the sources that I use are vetted sources that I know are used by financial institutions and investment banks, and have primarily been derived from government figures. There are also a whole host of other companies out there that just, have laundry lists of industry reports. And in many cases, I've seen that there are substantial errors. Having just played around with, ChatGPT and other related AI platforms, I've seen, to their credit, they will list a number of sources if you ask, what is the revenue of the restaurant industry, and they'll come up with a bunch of them. Some of them, are far more reputable than others. One of the other issues, again, is that I'm just seeing a lot of AI-generated content that is pulled, where it just pulls random statistics from the internet, which is, I think, going to be, for my industry at least, going to be one of the ongoing issues that occurs, where there is a lot of just information that's not correct that gets regurgitated across numerous websites and gets pushed up into the search results. I know I'm trailing there, but that is the case. If you are looking for the best possible information, one of the things I can recommend is to take a look at the U.S. economic census. It's updated every 5 years, and now that it's 2025, I think they're starting to roll out some of the new information regarding varying industries in the United States. That's always a great starting point if you need to understand the size of any given market on a global, or on a national level. And that also segments it by state as well. That's always a good starting point. In regards, again, just touching on the industry research, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't need to be enormous, and that's for a very specific reason. From there, the next section is the customer profile. This is also I would say between that and the competitive analysis, these are the two more important sections of the market research. As it relates to your customer profile, you're going to want to very clearly delineate who exactly you're targeting within your specific market. If you're a high-end restaurant or a mid-range restaurant, you're going to want to take a look at, how many people are earning over a certain threshold in your market. If you're a super high-end area, you may want to say, minimum income is going to be $75,000 to $100,000 of people that are going to frequent my business. You're also going to want to determine what's called your target market area. How far away are people going to come? So in those, as part of your customer profile, you also want to sort of have a subsection that addresses your target market analysis. That would include basically where you intend to locate, draw a 3-mile circle, 5-mile circle, 10-mile circle, and understand the population density, the median household income, the wealth of the market, which could be determined by property values. Especially if you see a rapid rise of property values, it tends to be a wealthier area. And that can help you determine not only the size of your market, but whether or not the business is going to be feasible to begin with. There absolutely have been instances where I have written a business plan, done all the market research, and given it to my client to say, this is not a feasible market for what I'm trying to do. And rather than having spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on potentially building this business and then having it not work, they just determined we're gonna have to find a different location. That's always okay as well. That's part of developing the business plan, is developing that type of market research to determine your feasibility. And as you write the business plan, you may determine, hey, the area that I'm in or the area that I'm targeting may not be the best place for this type of business based on what I'm doing, or I'm gonna have to pivot based on, there is a lower income here, or it doesn't have that same population density. So maybe I'll need to start this on a smaller scale, or maybe not charge as much as that I initially anticipated. For businesses such as like a daycare center or an early child education center, you're going to want to take a look at age-based statistics. How many families have children under the age of 10? How many families have children under the age of 5? All of these things should be very thoroughly discussed. You can use statistics from the U.S. Census. There are also a number of companies that provide this information as well. And one of the things you can also do if you're struggling, a lot of real estate-based platforms will provide this information, especially if they deal in commercial real estate, because this is one of the things that they do. If you ultimately are renting a commercial space, you'll see that they'll give most established real estate brokerages will provide this sort of information for you. You can always request it as well. If you're taking a look at a very specific area and you want to see any of these statistics, certainly work with a local real estate brokerage that can help you. For the competitive analysis, this is also one of the more complicated parts of developing the market analysis, and overall just one of the more complicated parts of the business plan. When you do the competitive analysis, you're certainly going to want to take a look at every type of business that is comparable to yours within the market. Again, going back to the last section, taking a look at your target market area, how big is that and what are the competitors within this market? What are they doing well? What are they not doing well? What are their pricing points? And how am I going to compete against those individual competitors? That's also one of the best things you can do when doing your competitive analysis, is also, again, focus on how you're going to differentiate yourself and what are your advantages. Because as you write that out, you may actually discover certain things that you may not have thought of when you're directly thinking about, okay, just going with the daycare center example, they do this and I'm going to do that, but how can I also make my service better than theirs? What's going to draw parents to my location versus them? The other thing you take into account is how long a business has been in operation. That's another major component. And again, you want to have that reasonable target market radius. With certain exemptions, you can have a competitor that is outside of your target market radius. So for instance, let's say again, and this actually was a real life example. Someone that I was working with was starting a restaurant, and we took a look at all the businesses within a 10-mile radius. And it turned out slightly beyond that was a restaurant that served the exact same type of cuisine, and it had 1 Michelin star. And it wasn't like one of the 3 Michelin star restaurants, where it's, a huge dinner service. It was just a very highly noted sort of local business that had great cuisine, was reasonably priced, was a family-owned business. But again, slightly outside target market radius, but still an effective competitor, because if that is a local business that has that distinction, then people may be willing to drive the distance to go and experience that versus going to someone that's a little bit closer. There's an additional pull to that. So all those things should be taken into account. And again, when you're developing a business plan, especially for the market research portion, there are very few definitive, there are no real rules that you should do. You just want to be as thorough as possible. And again, focus very heavily on your differentiating factors, your competitive advantages, especially as it relates to price. If you're involved in a commodity type business, let's say it's pressure washing, or pool cleaning, or lawn mowing, and again, there are different levels of quality among those providers, but generally speaking, for businesses that are a one size fits all, or where the service is somewhat standardized, take that into account as well. Things like how long they've been in business and how you're going to be pricing competitive. That will make sure that you're going to be able to effectively obtain new customers, especially because you're going against companies that are already established. That's always the biggest challenge of starting any business, is that there's always someone else doing it, and there's always someone else doing it that's close by, in most cases. In which case you have to figure out a way that you're going to be better, that you're going to draw customers, and how you're going to effectively market that. If you do have questions regarding information regarding the best way to go creating a marketing plan, I have another video to that. If you take a look at the playlist, and I'll put it in the link below, just to get some more information on that. And that's pretty much it. In closing, again, I'm very new to this. Hopefully, I've said this a few times already, production value hopefully will increase in the coming videos. And the ultimate purpose of this is, again, just to provide as much information as I can, having done this for almost the last 20 years. Certainly, I'm also promoting my business to a certain extent. The name of my company is Deutsch & Thomas. We are a professional business plan writing firm. We do both business plans and pitch decks, as well as specialized financial modeling, whether you're raising money from an SBA via an SBA loan, a conventional business loan, or through private investment. If you're stuck at any part of your business plan, or you just want to ship it off to someone else to do in its entirety, certainly feel free to visit our website. It's dtcapitalinc.com, and the link is down below as well. And certainly if you have any questions, feel free to message us directly, or put any questions in the comments. I'm always we'll always scan through and answer any question I possibly can. Thank you very much for taking a look, and take care. Bye.